everybody, it's Sir Harry. Welcome back to World of Tanks. Today we're going to look at the T-44-100. This is a Tier 8 medium tank. It's Russian, it's a premium tank, and it's one that you can't get a lot of the time. It came out originally just after the T-54 Mod 1 was released in-game, and you had to complete a mission marathon. You had to get a bunch of daily tickets, and then if you had enough tickets, you could get this tank. And it does come up very rarely for sale in the gift shop. And I'm covering it today because I have to say I think this is probably one of my favorite premium tanks, and actually one of my favorite medium tanks. And I'm definitely a medium tank player. And this tank really has it all. It does. It's got decent mobility. It's got a great fast-firing gun. It's got pretty good armor. And if you put a good crew in it, it's got really nice view range, and you can just really wreak havoc. And it's competitive. Even you get stuck in Tier 9 and Tier 10 battles, which you do a lot now with the changes to the matchmaker. You can hold your own. And because it's a premium tank, if you have to dab the 2 key to start firing some APCR rounds, you can get away with it and not lose money anyway. You may not make a lot of money. It's got a 100mm gun. You can see here, 8 rounds a minute, great rate of fire. 190 pen on the standard rounds, 247 on the premium rounds. That's a pretty phenomenal penetration for a Tier 8 gun, and 250 average damage. So this isn't a tank where you pull out and you blat your opponents and do a lot of alpha with one shot. You definitely need to be poking in and out of cover. And the damage adds up pretty quick, though, as you'll see in some of the battles. Dispersion's not great, 0.35, but it's got a 2-second aim time. That is phenomenal, and we'll compare that to some of its Tier 8 compatriots in a few minutes. It's got decent speed and mobility. It's not too bad. 520 horsepower engine, and it's only a 15% chance of fire. I've got coated optics on this with a very good crew. This is my all-female 4-skill Russian crew that I ground from the T-43 all the way up to Tier 10. And I play in this tank all the time. 472 meter view range, more than the 445 you need, but it's definitely good for spotting scouts and other tanks hiding in bushes and whatnot. It's got a pretty good specific power. 15 is not great, but you'll see later the ground resistances on this tank are actually quite good. So let's get into tanks.gg, and we'll do a head-to-head comparison against some of its rivals. We've got the T-54 Mod 1, of course, the other main Tier 8 Russian medium premium tank, the Panzer 58 Mutz from Germany, and of course the M46 KR, the American Tier 8 premium. And first and foremost, wow, look at that DPM, 2,085, hands down the winner. Only the T-54 Mod 1 comes even close, but even that's about 130 DPM lower than the T-44-100. Penetration, kind of middle of the road, 190. The Mutz definitely has higher pen, but you know, it's pretty much in there with the other Tier 8 premium mediums, and of course better than the T-44, the stock T-44. Damage 250 is lower than the T-44 itself, but on par with most of the other tanks, even better than the Mutz and the KR. And look at that rate of fire, 8.34 rounds a minute. That is base. That's without a rammer. That's without brothers in arms, or without premium consumable like food. So this thing is a DPM monster for a Tier 8 medium tank, and you'll see in the replays it's going to pick its opponents apart pretty quickly when it has the opportunity. Looking at the gun handling, again, wow, 1.92 seconds. That is base. That's without a gun lane drive. That's without, again, a premium consumable or brothers in arms. You can get that even lower. Hands down the winner in that category. Dispersion as well, slightly better than the T-54 Mod 1, the Mutz, and the KR. Once you start moving the tank and the turret around, however, the dispersion does get slightly worse than its contemporaries there, but still not terrible, and you'll see again in the replays, you're able to snapshot after moving the tank or the turret sometimes pretty effectively. Speed, it's the fastest of the bunch here. Reverse speed 20 is comparable to the rest of them, and the terrain resistances are actually pretty darn good as well. 0.48 hard, 0.58 medium, and 1.44 soft is pretty much best in class, with the exception of the Mutz, who is better on hard and soft terrain. As far as armor goes, the T-44-100 has exactly the same armor as the T-44, so if you found that pretty good, you will like this tank. 90 on the front of the hull is pretty good. It's comparable to the Mutz, but certainly the T-54 Mod 1, which is known for its armor, has a significantly better hull armor, and the M46 KR is slightly better as well. But that turret armor, 190 millimeters on the front of that turret, again, same as the T-44, is only slightly worse than the T-54 Mod 1, and is far superior to the Mutz and to the M46 KR. You will bounce a lot off the front of this turret if you're able to get hull down. If you're moving around, wiggling your tank or your turret back and forth, you can have some pretty awesome ricochets, even from higher tier tanks potentially if they catch it at a really sharp angle. Finally, view range 380 meters, pretty much on par. Only the KR is better. But again, once you get a good crew with situational awareness, throw some optics on this tank, no problems getting to the 445 meter max and beyond if you want some extra help spotting camouflage tanks. So looking at the live model now, you can see that effective frontal hull armor, even square on, is 150 millimeters. But look at this turret, 300, 250 plus around the sides of the gun mantlet and on the edges there. You can see that purple auto ricochets if it's a high enough angle. And around the mantlet, it does actually get a little weaker, believe it or not. You're just shy of 200 there, 189, 190. And there's a couple of very tiny little weak spots, 175 if you consider that a weak spot. But yeah, that's you got to be pretty accurate and get pretty lucky to pen those little weak spots around the gun. There is a small cupola, 100 millimeters, but that's a very small target. And where this is a relatively zippy little tank that can move back and forth quickly, it is a very hard target to hit. So good luck with that. If it does side scrape, you can see now, here's one of the big differences with this tank compared to a lot of its rivals. It's got this spaced armor on the side, just outside the track, so that will eat up heat rounds. That'll reduce some damage from some high explosive rounds. It will make this tank a little harder to track directly on the side, although you can see there the front drive wheel is still exposed, and that's where you want to go for if you're trying to track this tank. The side of the turret, relatively flat, 130-ish effective armor, so that is penetrable for sure. But as soon as it starts angling, you can see that it becomes very difficult to pen very quickly. And the front of the hull, if it is side scraping, you can see there it's up to about 180 effective. Lower front hull though, definitely a weak spot, 130 effective there, even angled like this. And if it is side scraping, of course, again, the side skirts may eat up some shots. But right here is a pretty good deal. If you can't see the lower plate, it's about 160 on the side of the hull here because that space armor does not come all the way forward. So enough about the facts and figures. Let's get into some battles now and see what we can do in the T-44-100. So for our first battle, we're in a Tier 8 battle in Stalingrad, and this is about the best matchmaking you're ever going to see in this tank. Of course, there's only 3 Tier 8s on each team, and then we've got a bunch of Tier 7s and Tier 6s. So we should be able to run roughshod over the lower tier tanks. And again, this is about as good as it gets. So we're in the north spawn, and I'm going to head down the middle. This is a bit of a dodgy play. You can see I've only got a Type 64 with me, the Tier 6 premium Chinese light tank, a really good scout tank. But if we run into any significant opposition here, if the enemy rushes the middle, as happens on occasion, we could be in real trouble because we've got no backup, and we'd have to be able to extricate ourselves pretty quickly from the situation. So I am being cautious. Sometimes you'll see enemy light tanks run through the square and then dash east out towards the river road there. But in this case, that doesn't seem to be happening. So we have an IS, the Tier 7 Russian heavy tank, coming out to play here. Came up one of those north-south routes out of their spawn area. So I'm going to move forward, and he actually came up a little further than I expected. He catches me with a lucky shot, and I take a lot of damage, although I do have a lot of hit points to play with, so that's okay. So now I'm going to get back under cover. I'm going to come out at an angle to try to take advantage of the good armor that I do have. And you can see there, he bounces off my front. I get a shot through his side. Let's take a look and see where that actually bounced off. Yeah, that bounced off the gun mantlet. So even though it's not the strongest armor on the front of the turret, it's enough to bounce a Tier 8 heavy anyway. So let's track him. There we go. Perfect. Tracked him and did damage. So let's see if we can keep that up and eat up the rest of his hit points. You can see there now I'm keeping him tracked, but unfortunately those shots aren't penetrating. The tracks are eating up enough of my penetration value to stop it from getting through the side of his hull. Again, that happens. So I'm going to load some APCR, see if I can get through here. And nope, still nothing. Okay, so you know what? Let's forget about that. Let's just go for some straight out damage. And what I do in this situation sometimes is I'll alternate between the tracks and a part of the tank I know I can penetrate. And you can see here I'm reloading. That great reload is good, but not good enough to prevent him from repairing his tracks. He may have used a repair kit there, I'm not sure. And the IS pulls back under cover. So now we've got an M4 Jumbo, the Tier 6 American medium, the one that has the really, really nice frontal armor on it. And at Tier 6, even Tier 7, it can be a bit of a pain because it is hard to penetrate unless you want to start burning premium rounds. But for a Tier 8 medium like this tank, and I'm just firing the normal AP rounds, I have no problem at all going through his hull, although you can see there I do bounce off the front of his turret. So I'm going to pull back now. I can see there's a couple of heavy tanks now pressuring my Type 64. I'm going to come back around under cover here, see if I can actually help out my Type 64, keep him alive. But then the jumbo pushes, and you know what? I can't resist that opportunity. 260 plus damage on him there. That chews up a lot of his hit points. Again, he's only a tier 6 medium. So the enemy looks like they think better of that rush, and they are consolidating a little bit here. So I'm going to try to get the jumbo out of action. Whoa, but there's the IS. He's a one-shot for me. Can I get him? Yeah, no problem. He was on very low health, and even a regular old AP round does enough damage to take him out. The jumbo takes out my ammo rack. I'm going to repair that, of course, very quickly. And then he gets hung up on these rocks here. I think he's in kind of panic mode. He's trying to stay under cover, hoping that one of his allies will come and help him out. And again, I bounce a shot from the tier 6 medium tank off my tank. Artillery is now taking an interest in me because I've just killed 2 of their tanks, and that's fine. And we're going to start going after the tier 7 Japanese heavy. There's a lot of hit points here. Anytime you have a chance to farm hit points like this off a big slow-moving tank who wants to present his side to you, you know what, it'd be silly not to do so. So I'm going to just play pokey-peeky here out from behind the wreck of the IS. That last shot doesn't get through his front, but I've got his side again. That's great, and he derps a big giant HE round, it looks like, past me. And then our RL-44, the lower tier French heavy tank, manages to take him out with a nice clean shot in the behind. So we can see now they're pushing up the River Road. Our team really hasn't managed to hold that. And there's an M6, a tier 6 American heavy, and the E25 that is super dangerous. So OP, they took it out of the game. Russian tank destroyer, super fast firing gun, albeit with a bit of low penetration, but when you're putting out a round every couple of seconds, it's easy for the damage to add up. So the M6, really, I'm not too worried about him. He does put a shot through my side. I get under cover here. He's got pretty good gun depression, but you know what? His gun depression isn't that good. If I'm down below him like this, he's going to really struggle to get rounds onto me, and I'll have no problem penetrating even the front of his gun mantlet. You can see there again, my turret manages to bounce another round, in this case from a much lower tier gun. And yeah, we're just going to poke back and forth. The mobility on the tank, on the T-44-100, isn't amazing, but it's good enough that you can poke in and out and tear an enemy apart, especially one that's 2 tiers lower than you. So now the E25's down the river road. He's killed our artillery, and he's going to start taking shots at me. And even if he does penetrate, he's shooting, looks like my lower hull, and he's got very good DPM, but I'll have no problem taking him out. So I'm just going to sit here, take the damage, and get the last kill of the game. So 4 kills, pretty happy with that. An ace tanker, a steel wall, I bounced enough rounds there, and I got the high caliber. Shouldn't be surprising as one of only 3 tier 8 tanks on my team. You can see I did just over 4,000 damage, 1,276 base XP, and because this is a premium tank, I actually grossed over 114,000 credits, and even firing a couple of APCR, I managed to make an 87,000 credit profit. So now on to our second battle. We're on Fisherman's Bay. This is a really fun map in a good medium tank. You want to play the middle here for the most part, unless you're some kind of super unicum who can do all kinds of ninja stuff down the one line or through the city. The mediums really should be playing in the middle here, especially mediums with good turret armor and decent gun depression. And this isn't great gun depression. It's not like American or Centurion type gun depression, but I think it's 7 degrees, which is adequate, certainly enough to play a gentle ridge like this. So I'm going to very carefully poke up the middle here, because you never know who's going to show up. Occasionally some heavies will come this way, and you can't take a big giant round in the face when you first pop up. So you can see there, I take a shot at the Schwarz Panzer there, the black edition of the Panzer 58 Mutz. And we've actually got, I think, an I-6B in this game too, another one of those sort of special black edition tanks. You don't see those around the battlefield too much, but we got 2 of them in this battle anyway. But for all intents and purposes, it is a Mutz. It is a pretty dangerous tier 8 medium tank, and he's intent on using his gun depression, which is actually better than mine, and a decent rate of fire to try to dominate the middle here. But you can see we've got a Löwe and a Carnarvon coming up. And again, you can have success in the middle with heavy tanks if you've got enough heavies that the city's not going to be left exposed either. And you can see there we've got 4 other heavies covering the approaches in the city, so that's fine. No issues there. The Löwe, who is actually going to have a very good game, is playing really well in the middle here, and actually has a great contribution to our team's success. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm looking for shots out to the west there, down in that bottom southwest corner, because you will have sometimes tanks that hide around H3. If you watch my M3 Lee Unlevables video, you saw me use that position. It's a very powerful position if you have tanks spotting the middle and eventually spotting back towards that northwest corner where the TDs hang out if you're from the southern spawn. from their northern spawn, there's really no equivalent position here, so really the middle's where you want to be, but you do want to try to suppress any enemies that are out that way. So now you can see the Wheezy 132 comes up. I get spotted, I put it around towards him, but again, I don't think that makes it. And that, yeah, there's a Schwarzpanzer again. He's hiding behind that house and just popping up when he thinks I'm not looking and trying to get around into me. So things are going okay. We're up 2-1. I am getting some spotting damage, but I haven't done any actual damage yet. And you know, it's an all tier 8 battle. I'd certainly like to at least do my own hit points and damage, get that fire for effect medal, and hopefully more, and have a really solid game. But for now, I just want to save my hit points. I don't want to get caught out. I don't want that T-32 off to my left there to put a big round into my side. This tank can get ammo rack sometimes. I do have safe stowage on my crew. Again, I've got a very good crew, but I don't want to take any chances and get caught out here and maybe get tracked by the Schwarzpanzer and then ripped apart by the T-32. My team, however, is doing a fantastic job. They did push the one line. That's a really risky play if the enemy's reinforced it, because you can lose a lot of your forces trying to force that southwest corner. But in this case, the enemy didn't have enough tanks there, and our team managed to power on through and drive them out of that area. So the 59 Patton's the last surviving enemy down there. He's probably not going to last too much longer. And you can see there we've got one of our mediums pushing in to clean him up, and our medium's on full hit points pretty much, so he should be able to trade very well and take out that M59 Patton. So that leaves now the middle and the city really left for us to clear out. We've won one flank. We don't want to let the enemies power through the city and flank us on the east, because then we've just basically swapped ends with them. We will dominate the south and they'll dominate the north. So at this point now, I really don't have a lot of targets left. I'd have to overexpose myself significantly to get shots on that T-32. You can see the Schwarzpanzer is now pulled back, and so I'm going to come and try to help my team out with the city. And you can see if you're really careful and you take your time, you can find some really awesome little shots through some of these buildings down into the city area. That's what I'm doing right now, just trying to fish back and forth and see if I can feather shots through cover. And there we go right there. So let's see if we can get a shot in. We track. Okay, that's not terrible. Get a tracking shot on the Chrysler. And I'm going to aim and try to track him again as he's moving. And that's exactly what happens. I aimed just in front of his rear drive wheel there as he was moving, and led him just enough to get the tracking shot in there. So my goal now, with this pretty good rate of fire, is to just keep him tracked, get some of my own damage, and obviously help my team take out a pretty well-armored Tier 8 American heavy tank. So now we're going to start fishing for shots on some of these other heavies. You can see my team's holding. There is an SU-101 back there somewhere by the enemy base. I managed to get a shot into my backside. And I'm going to try to get shots on the size 3, but that Luva is, yeah, no, the Luva is still there. Okay, yeah, he's farming these heavies as well, and he was repositioning there and just managed to kind of get in my way. But that's fine. He's doing a great job, and again, he has an awesome game. So now we get a Japanese heavy side-on shots, but he pulls back behind cover. So I'm going to see if I can get some shots into the size 3. You know, very dangerous Russian Tier 8 heavy tank. A lot of fun to play, and the armor is very effective if it's pointed directly at you. It's got that pike nose. If it's angled at all, it's definitely not the best armor on a heavy. And we got the American T-32 here. I put a shot into his bottom plate, but you can see there that he's angled sufficiently that he manages to bounce my shot. And there's that IS-3. Again, a shot directly at that pike nose. Doesn't manage to pen. And can we get a shot? No. In fact, that was a bad trade. He does over 400 damage to me, and I bounce off him. I probably should have dabbed that 2 key as I do now and try to get the APCR rounds going. So there's a T-32. I'm not going to go for his turret. I'm going to wait to get a shot on his hull, even if I do have to expose myself a bit. The T-32's turret armor is pretty strong. I did have APCR loaded, but still, you know, didn't want to chance it. I wanted to make sure I confirmed that kill and got his gun out of the game. So now we're able to take out the Japanese heavy tank, and it's just the IS-3 left. Pretty much, that's it, and he's going to be dead in a moment. Yep, there we go. So now we're into cleanup mode, and the mobility on the T-44-100, you know, it's not the fastest tank as far as mediums go, but it's fast enough, and you can definitely exploit up flanks and up seams in the enemy's lines if there are gaps, and certainly endgame. It's a pretty good cleanup tank with that fast rate of fire and decent mobility. So we're going to push down. We're, of course, you know, first and foremost, we want to try to find the artillery and thank that clicker for ruining everybody's game, at least in part. But luckily our team is going to prevail here. And can we find him? Let's take a look here. It's the Su-14-2, the big Russian self-propelled gun. Looks kind of like a rail gun, kind of like a rail car. It's huge, and oh, there he is, awesome. And oh, ammo rack. There you go. Good night, Mr. Clicker. And oh, not just an ammo rack, a cook-off. You can hear the rounds sizzling and popping off there. You get those once in a while. I don't know what differentiates a regular ammo rack from a cook-off, but yeah, I should have brought the marshmallows. We could have sung Kumbaya and played some guitar and you know, had our camp blankets out and had a good time. So clean up now, just the Wheezy 132 left, and we'll see if we can get our damage up a little higher before the end of the game. Our team is now closing in. There he is. There he's out in the middle of a field. Light tank is not going to last that long. Certainly, I would have expected him to take a run up the one line, maybe go hunting for our artillery, but he decides to just sit out in the middle of an open field and take some damage. So we get one shot into him. Can we get another? No, we can. Our team takes him out and secures the victory. So another ace tanker. We got the demolition expert for that awesome explosion and cook-off on the enemy artillery. We got the fire for effect and the fighter medals. Second for damage. That Luva, holy cow, almost 6k damage. We got 2100 and 1200 base XP. And again, we did fire some premium rounds, so 61,000 profit. I was running premium food on this as well to see how it might affect my crew's performance. So last battle, Serene Coast, and yeah, we're North Spawn. This is a tier 9 battle. Not as bad as it could be, not a tier 10, but tier 9 is still pretty bad. We've got a bunch of tier 9s running around. And if I'm North Spawn in a halfways mobile medium tank, or certainly in a light tank, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go bash down this little bungalow here and get behind these trees and try to spot the heavy tanks moving across to the peninsula. That's exactly what we do. I take a rush shot here. It goes a bit low, and I miss the American heavy there, the T-44. And we'll see if I can get another one in time, and no, we don't. I should have pulled a little further forward there, but that's fine. At least he's spotted. My team knows he's coming, so I've got some intelligence. And there's a Tiger 2. Quick shot. Yeah, okay, we managed to get one into him there. This gun is pretty good at snapshotting. You know, the dispersion values aren't as strong as some of the other tier 8 premiums, as we saw when we did the tank compare, but you know what, it's still pretty decent. Another Tiger 2 way in the back here. I think he's seen his colleagues take some damage. Can we get a shot into his back here? There we go, really nice. And I was hoping to get an engine fire there, but it didn't pan out. So this position here, if you don't get spotted, is actually pretty strong, because once the enemy tanks have moved to the east and are behind cover of that little ridge, occasionally some of them do pop up like this German tank has here. I'm not taking a shot right now because I don't have a green indicator. I'm not guaranteed or highly likely to pen him, and I don't want to give up my camouflage right now. So I'm just going to watch him. Hopefully my team can get some damage into him and I can do some spotting. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, then we decide to try to shoot, and he just pulls back, and of course I hit the top of his turret at that angle, and it's an auto ricochet. So I'm spotted. You can see some rounds coming in there. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to take a look. Things are going really well. We actually sent a number of heavy tanks over to the west, because that sort of D1, E1 spot where mediums and lights tend to duke it out on this map. In fact, we sent a bunch of heavies and absolutely overwhelmed them. But of course, the so what is that our heavies are not all in the east defending the peninsula. So we got a couple of their tanks pulling up there. I put a shot into the Patriot. I missed a shot on the Liberté, and probably got spotted in that effort. But you know, I'm going to try to harass here if I can. But really, with that ridge there, I'm not going to be able to do much. And you can see now it's just our Jagdtiger and our Stritzfang in the back there defending the eastern flank. So we're kind of mid-game right now, and I'm thinking, you know what? There's a number of enemy tanks. They're all focused forward. We haven't seen any enemy TDs in the back, because usually they'll sit back at the southern end of that peninsula and snipe. But they have no targets right now, with our Jagdtiger being the southernmost of our tanks, and he'd be not out of range, but he'd be undercover and wouldn't be able to be engaged by a TD down there. So I'm thinking if there was a TD there, he may have moved on. And you know what? Let's try to exploit. I'm going to try to put this high rate of fire to good use by cleaning up some of the low health enemy heavies. You see there, the Liberté is a 2-shot for me. I get one shot into his back. And of course, when you're shooting into the back of a tank like this, you may save yourself a shot, because you could set the tank on fire and burn up the rest of his hit points. Enemy artillery manages to splash me there. I don't use my my first aid kit at the time. I think, you know what, I might save it, because in case my gunner or my loader get hit, I definitely want to be able to restore them really quickly, as I'm about to get into some kind of melee action here. You know, this is a bit of a brawling medium tank. You can get away with it. It'd be nice if it was a little faster, because it does struggle a bit strafing. I'm going to go for the Patriot here. He's a one-shot, get his gun out of the battle, and now we're going to try to figure out how to deal with this T-34 with his monstrously large gun that should have no problem penetrating me. I do auto-aim there because I want to start focusing on my driving, and I managed to bounce a shot. off the front of his turret. He does get around into me, 329, but I do get another into him, and you know what? He's going to get his gun around before I can do anything, so I'm going to go for cover. And you know what? Let's try to clean up that T-95. That's a very dangerous Tier 9 tank destroyer, at least front on. And you can see he's duking it out with our Stritzvon here. So I'm going to try to keep this rock between me and the T-34. And yeah, let's clean up that T-95. He's just coming out of view here. Can I get the shot in before he goes? Yep, no problem. But oh, okay, T-34 got around a little faster than I expected, and was able to get another shot into me. Now I'm still not a one-shot for him. Oh, there's an artillery. Lorraine's there. Awesome. So let's see if we can keep under cover here from the T-34, and we're going to snap a shot here to the Lorraine, and bang, there we go. Artillery kill. Just made my day. So let's back up now. Again, we're going to try to use this rock to shelter us from the T-34. We know the artillery's dead, so we don't have to worry about that. And now it's just cleanup time. One tank left. We're going to try to get some extra damage, maybe some assistance. Artillery splashes him, and now his crew is stunned, so there will be a negative impact on his crew. I get a shot into his side, and now I'm going to use the wreck of this Super Pershing for cover, and effectively I'm going to reverse side scrape out. So the T-34 shoots at me, and I ricochet. I bounce, and is that a viewport icon? That doesn't look like tracks, and it wasn't just a straight old ricochet. It looks like my viewport actually bounced a shot. Wow, okay. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Let me know in the comments if you have. But in the meantime, we're going to flank around here. I'm going to wait for the shot on the T-34's hull. I can take one hit from him. And sure enough, we put a shot through his frontal hull for the final kill. On to the battle results. Ace Tanker, Fighter, Duelist, and Fire for Effect. And yeah, 98,800 credit gross. Almost 100,000. Wow. Almost 3,400 damage and just shy of 1,300 base XP on that battle. And yeah, 75,000 credit profit even after firing some APCR rounds. This thing is an awesome credit maker. So T-44-100, is it worth the gold? Is it worth reaching into your wallet and actually spending some real money, some of your hard-earned money on? Well, that depends. If you love medium tanks, and especially if you love Russian medium tanks, then I would have to say absolutely. This thing is worth every penny. You'll get a lot of fun gameplay out of it. It'll help you train those Russian medium crews so that by the time you unlock the tier 10s, you'll have, 2-skill, 3-skill, 4-skill crews available to play in them. But just as importantly, it lets you develop a feel for the play style of those higher tier Russian mediums. Yep, this is tier 8. This isn't an Object 140 or a T-62A, but it lets you develop a feel for that play style. So by the time you do unlock them, I would suggest you're going to be much better prepared to be competitive at tier 10 in those tier 10 Russian mediums and be much more successful. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you have this tank and you like it, let me know. If you hate it, tell me why you don't like it. If you recommend a different tier 8 Russian medium like the T-54 Mod 1, hey, let me know why you think that's better. This is Sir Harry, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and please consider clicking like and clicking subscribe if you liked what you saw. Cheers.